My name is Renata Caldwell, and I am 34 years old. And for 20 of those years, I lived inside a lie so perfectly constructed that I never once thought to question it. The house was the lie. My
I managed to get the
stepmother was the
files, but we
architect,
have to be
and
extremely
every
careful.
single morning
They are
I
watching
woke up
everyone
inside
involved in
those
the
walls,
project.
I was living proof that her plan was working. But that all changed on a Tuesday afternoon when I was looking for my passport. She was mid-sentence, finger pointed, voice sharp enough to cut through the stillness of the living room when I just stopped responding. Not because I had nothing to say, but because I finally had something she did not know about. As long as you live under my roof, Renata, you will follow my rules. You do not get to walk in and out of this house like it belongs to you. Her name is Diane Caldwell. She married my father when I was 7 years old, and she has been the loudest voice in every room of that house ever since. I stood there looking at her. I did not flinch. I did not cry. I did not argue. And somewhere in the back of my mind, beneath the calm I had practiced my entire life just to survive her, one thought surfaced slowly, like something rising from very deep water. She has no idea I already found the deed. Let me take you back, because this story does not make sense without the foundation, and the foundation is heavy. My father, Gerald Caldwell, was the kind of man who made everyone around him feel safe, quiet, steady, the type of man who fixed things without being asked, and remembered every birthday without a reminder. He was not perfect, but he was present, and when you are a child, presence is everything. My mother passed away when I was 5, a car accident. I do not have many memories of her, just the smell of something warm and floral, a voice that felt like a blanket, and a photograph my father kept on his nightstand until the day Diane moved in and quietly relocated it to a box in the garage. My father met Diane 2 years after my mother died. He was lonely. I understand that now in a way I could not understand at 7. He needed someone, and Diane was charming and warm and attentive, at least in the beginning. They married quickly, within a year of meeting, and I remember standing at the edge of that backyard wedding in a white dress with a yellow ribbon, thinking that maybe this was going to be okay. Maybe she was going to be like the mothers I saw on television, warm, funny, imperfect, but loving. She was none of those things. Not to me, anyway. It started small, the way things like this always do. A comment here, a correction there. Renata, sit up straight. Renata, that is not how we do things in this house. Renata, your father and I have already decided. I was a child. I adapted. Children always do. But as I got older, the control became less subtle. The house became Diane's primary weapon. I heard it so often it became the wallpaper of my childhood. This is my house, and you will respect it. You are lucky I let you stay here, Renata. If you cannot follow the rules, you are free to find somewhere else to live. She said it to 12 when I stayed out past curfew. She said it at 16 when I started pushing back on her decisions. She said it at 19 when I came home from my first year of college with opinions she did not approve of. She said it at 22 when I moved back after a rough breakup and needed somewhere to land. Always the same script, always delivered with the same unshakable confidence. My house, my rules, your privilege. My father was present but passive. That's the truth of it. He loved me, I've never doubted that, but he had a particular blindness when it came to Diane. He believed the version of her she showed him, and Diane was careful to always be a different woman when he was in the room. Dad passed away 8 years ago. Heart attack. He was 59, which is far too young, and the grief nearly swallowed me whole. But what I didn't realize until much later was that his death was also the moment Diane's control escalated from uncomfortable to suffocating. because now there was no buffer, no quiet man in the corner who might accidentally see too much. It was just me and Diane, and the house she reminded me belonged to her every time I forgot to wipe my shoes at the door. I stayed because I didn't know where else to go, because grief makes you stationary, because the house felt like the last physical connection to my father, and leaving it felt like losing him a second time. I stayed, and she kept talking. Gerald would have wanted me to maintain this household. This house is my legacy now. Everything in here is mine, Renata. Everything your father built, he built for me. I believed her. Why would I not? She was the adult, she was the wife. She handled all the paperwork after my father died because I was too destroyed to function, and she managed everything with the confident efficiency of someone who had been waiting for that exact moment. I never questioned it, not until the Tuesday I was looking for my passport. I had a trip coming up, a long weekend with a friend, the first real vacation I had allowed myself in years. My passport was somewhere in the house, and I had a reasonable idea it was in the filing cabinet in the small office off the hallway, the room Diane called her office, even though the filing cabinet had been there before she ever set foot in the house. She was out. I went in. The cabinet was one of those tall ones, 4 drawers, slightly rusted at the hinges. I found my passport in the second drawer, sandwiched between an old insurance document and a folder with my name on it that I didn't remember creating. I pulled the folder out. Inside were documents I recognized, my birth certificate, my old school records, a card my father had written to me on my 18th birthday that I had been looking for since he died. I sat on the floor of that office and read the birthday card twice. Then I set it aside and kept looking through the folder. And there it was. Property deed, County Register of Deeds. The address was our address, the house we were sitting in. I thought I was looking at my father's name. I was not. The name on that deed was Renata Grace Caldwell. I read it 3 times, then I read it 5 more times, then I sat very still for a long time and just breathed. She knew. That was the part that kept circling back. Because Diane was meticulous, she handled every document, every bill, every piece of official correspondence that came through that house after my father died. There was no version of events in which she had not opened a filing cabinet and seen her stepdaughter's name on the property deed for the house she was living in. She didn't forget to tell me. She chose not to. Every single time she said, "my house," she knew it was not. Every threat of eviction, every reminder that I was living by her grace, every power move dressed up as discipline, she knew the entire time. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in the dark, and I thought about every moment of my life in that house, every time I had shrunk myself to fit inside her rules, every time I apologized for existing too loudly, every time I almost left but stayed because leaving felt like surrender. All of it, every single piece of it, built on a lie she maintained with total intention. By morning, I had made a decision. I was not going to confront her, not yet. Only the real ones make it this far. Comment where you're watching from and subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Confronting Diane without preparation was like walking into a courtroom without a lawyer. She was articulate and manipulative, and she would have an answer for everything. She would minimize, deflect, reframe. She would find a way to make me look like the unstable one, the ungrateful one, the daughter who never appreciated everything she had sacrificed. No, I was going to be smarter than that. I started quietly. I took photographs of the deed with my phone, then I spent the next 3 evenings researching property law in our state, reading through county assessor records online and cross-referencing the deed with the current property tax filings. The tax filings were in Diane's name. She had been paying the property taxes on a house she did not own. which meant legally she had been operating as if she had ownership she was never granted. I contacted a property attorney, not a big firm, just a solo practitioner I found through a referral, a woman named Harriet who specialized in estate and property disputes. I told her the situation in a single email. She called me back the same day. "You have full legal ownership," Harriet told me. "The deed transfer is valid. It was notarized and recorded with the county 15 years ago. There is nothing your stepmother can claim here." "She has been paying the property taxes," I said. "That gives her no ownership claim. It is actually the opposite. It creates a paper trail showing she knew she was not the owner and was attempting to maintain the property under false pretenses." I contacted Harriet to begin preparing documents, a formal notice of ownership, a letter to Diane outlining the legal reality of her situation, a timeline giving her 60 days to make arrangements. I did not file anything yet, I just had it ready. And then I went home, and I lived my life normally. I had dinner at the table, I watched television in the evenings, I responded when Diane spoke to me, I gave her absolutely no indication that anything had changed. But everything had changed. There is a particular kind of calm that comes when you are holding all the cards. I had never felt it before in that house. I had always been the one reacting, adjusting, surviving. But now I was the one waiting, and the waiting felt like power. 2 weeks after I found the deed, something happened that I did not expect. I was coming down the hallway toward the kitchen when I heard Diane on the phone. She had not heard me come in. Her voice was low, but I caught enough. "Of the property value has gone up significantly. Yes, I've been looking at the comps. The realtor thinks we could list in the spring. I just need to get a few things in order on my end before we move forward." I stopped walking. I stood in the hallway and I listened. She was planning to sell the house, not list it as a rental, not take out a loan against it, sell it outright. The house my father had transferred into my name was being quietly prepared for a real estate transaction by a woman who had no legal right to sell a single square inch of it. I walked back to my room without making a sound. I called Harriet the next morning and told her what I had heard. "She cannot legally sell it," Harriet confirmed. "She has no deed, no title. Any transaction she attempts would collapse the moment a title search is run. But that does not mean she cannot cause chaos trying. You need to move sooner rather than later." "How soon?" I asked. "I would say within the next few weeks, before she gets far enough down the road with a realtor that things get complicated." I told Harriet to finalize the documents. We scheduled a date. And then I went back to living normally inside that house for 2 more weeks. That part was harder than I expected, because now I was not just managing my own emotions, I was watching Diane move through the house with new eyes. I noticed her measuring things with her gaze, the way she walked through rooms like she was already calculating what they were worth. She made a comment one evening about eventually downsizing and watched my face for a reaction. I gave her nothing. She began pressing harder. I think some part of her sensed that something had shifted, even if she could not name it. "You know, Renata, you really should think about your future. You cannot live here indefinitely." I looked up from the book I was reading. "I know," I said pleasantly. She seemed almost annoyed that I had agreed. A few days later, over dinner, "I've been thinking about making some changes to the house, renovations, possibly putting it on the market eventually. You should probably start thinking about where you want to land." "Good idea. Change is healthy." She stared at me. The following week, she escalated again. We had a minor disagreement about something genuinely small. I had rearranged the kitchen pantry in a way she did not approve of, and she used it as an opportunity to deliver the line she had been polishing for 30 years. "If you do not like the way things are run here, Renata, you are welcome to leave. This is my house, and I will not have you rearranging my home without asking me first." I looked at her for a long moment. "You are right," I said. "We should talk about the house." Something flickered across her face. not quite recognition, more like the instinct an animal gets right before a change in weather. "What is there to talk about?" she said. "Let us sit down," I said. I went to my room. I came back with the folder. I set it on the kitchen table between us. Diane looked at the folder. Then she looked at me. Her expression was composed, but I had lived in this house long enough to recognize the slight tightening around her eyes that meant she was working something out behind her face. "What is this?" she asked. "Open it," I said. She did not move for a moment. Then she opened the folder. She looked at the first page, the deed. The silence in that kitchen was the most complete silence I had ever heard. "Renata," she started. "You have been living in my house for 20 years, I said. My voice was steady, no anger in it, just fact, plain and clean. My father transferred this property into my name 15 years ago. The deed was notarized and recorded with the county. I have spoken with a property attorney. I have confirmed every legal detail. This house is mine." She closed the folder. She sat back in her chair. And then she did something I did not expect. She laughed. It was short, dismissive, the kind of laugh designed to make the other person feel foolish. "Your father intended for me to manage this household," she said. "We had an agreement." "There is no agreement in any legal document," I said. "There is only the deed, and the deed has my name on it." "You were 19 years old," she said, leaning forward now, her voice sharpening. "He transferred it to protect it, for tax purposes, because of my legal situation at the time. It was never meant to be permanent." "Then he would have transferred it back," I said. "He had 13 more years to do that. He did not." Her face changed. "You have no idea what your father and I had between us," she said. "Maybe not. But I know what's on that document, and I know what you've been telling me for 20 years. She was quiet. "I told you this was your house," I said. "You told me I was lucky to be here. You threatened to kick me out more times than I can count. You used this house as a weapon against me my entire life, and you knew the whole time that it was not yours." "I managed this household. I controlled it," I said. "There's a difference." Another silence, long and thick. I opened the folder again and slid a second document across the table, the letter Harriet had prepared. "This is a formal notice of ownership. It also outlines a timeline. I'm giving you 60 days to make alternative arrangements." She looked at the paper. Her composure was cracking now, just slightly at the edges. I could see it in the way her hands were not quite still. "You are kicking me out?" she said. Her voice was quieter now. "I'm giving you 60 days. That's more than fair." "After everything I did for you?" "Diane," I said her name clearly, and she stopped. "I need you to understand something. My father did not transfer this house into my name by accident. He did not forget to mention it to me. He did not intend for you to manage it indefinitely. I found out why." She went very still. "He had an attorney," I said. "I spoke with him. He's retired now, but he remembers the transaction clearly. My father transferred the house to me because he did not trust what would happen to it otherwise. He told the attorney directly. He wanted to make sure I always had somewhere to come home to, no matter what." Her face did what a face does when something it has been holding for a long time finally breaks loose. "He did not trust me?" It came out almost like a question. "He loved you," I said, and I meant it. "But he knew you, and he made a decision to protect his daughter. That was his right." She did not speak for a long time. I did not fill the silence. I had spent 20 years filling silences in that house, rushing to smooth things over, to absorb her moods, to make myself smaller enough to survive inside someone else's fiction. I was done filling silences. "You will have 60 days, I said again. "That's enough time to find something comfortable. I'm not asking you to leave with nothing. I'm asking you to leave." I picked up the folder. I stood up from the table. Renata. Her voice caught on my name in a way it never had before. I stopped. I looked at her, and I felt something that surprised me. It was not satisfaction exactly. It was more like grief. Grief for the version of this relationship that never existed, for the stepmother she could have been and chose not to be, for the 20 years neither of us were ever going to get back. I hope you find somewhere good, I said, and I meant that too. Then I walked out of the kitchen and down the hallway and into my room, in my house, on my property, and I closed the door quietly behind me. She was gone within 40 days. She did not say goodbye. She arranged for a moving company while I was at work and cleared her things out on a Wednesday. She left her key on the kitchen counter. I stood in the empty hallway that evening and looked at the house for the first time as fully mine, not as a shelter I was permitted to use, not as a space I had been allowed to occupy. Mine, left to me by a father who saw everything and said nothing out loud, but made sure, in the one way that counted, that I would always be protected. I had the locks changed on Thursday. On Friday morning, I made coffee in my kitchen, sat at my table, and looked out at the backyard where my father had built a small garden wall when I was 12. It was still there, a little weathered, but standing. He knew. He had known the whole time. He just trusted me to find it when I was ready. I sat with my coffee and I thought about everything, the arguments, the threats, the years of making myself small enough to survive inside someone else's fiction, and I thought about a 19-year-old girl whose father quietly walked into an attorney's office and made sure she would always have somewhere to belong. She lived in my house for 20 years. She spoke about it like it was a kingdom she had built. She never once knew that the ground beneath her feet had my name written on it. And that, in the end, was the only thing that mattered. Thank you so much for watching. Your support means the world to me. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.